My name is Mark Anthony Dubois Jr. I was born July 4th, 1986. I want to say thank you for tuning in. Today, kind of want to ask a couple questions to get a better understanding of what y'all believe about a simple concept. But a simple concept that in reality kind of consumes our entire world. The concepts of what love is all about. So which dilemma would you say is worse in these three cases? Now, your husband and your wife, he just slaps you around, punches you, gives you bruises once a week. Is that as bad as once a month? Is that as bad as once a year? Which one's worse? It's something that, for some reason, we would think that all three are worse, but we as a human would like put one of those in and say, no, that's the one, that one there. If he did it every week, I couldn't take that, but once a year, I could tolerate that. But if someone is doing that to you once, even, in the entire time that you're with somebody, that clearly shows that they don't love you. They don't appreciate you, they don't care about you, they don't respect you, they don't care nothing about your safety, they just don't care about you, period. But it's fascinating that, we do that to our children, we do that to our dogs, and we think that that's just acceptable and that's okay. And we're just showing them so-called love because I'm just beating the dog once in a while, so it'll be okay. I'm just beating the kid every once in a while, it'll be all right. It's very fascinating that when we have a said adult doing something to us and we do something to another adult, that we assume that if something else, we could do that to anything else that we want, and it's totally acceptable. That's the part where I believe that we are getting confused with these concepts of what love truly is. Because this is the biggest thing that I run into with talking to most all folks about your dogs. My dog is awesome, my dog loves me, my dog is the best, but everybody's got this but. But he bit the person, but he bit me, but he knocks grandma over, but he bit and killed the dog, but he this, but he that, but she was doing this, but she was doing that. If your dog actually loved you, it wouldn't be having that but in there. Everything would be pretty much said pretty good. It would be very, very stable, very reliable. You would be able to understand everything that's going on. The dog would stop and listen and pay attention to you when you're speaking to it. There's parts where, for me personally, I'm just constantly challenging these concept of these dogs love us. In my opinion, I don't believe that they comprehend what that actually truly means. They may comprehend it to what we as humans try to make that word to be today, such as physical attention and gift giving and things like that. Just a materialistic and the actual physical contact of things that we try to say is what love is all about. And in reality, that is not what love represents at all. And it's fascinating that we're going to sit here and say that my dog loves me, but he does this, she does that. So that must mean clearly that it doesn't love you. Because clearly, if you got a man or a woman that's sitting here beating you on a weekly basis, you would say, this person clearly doesn't love me. But it's fascinating because this is just stuff that we have as humans today is people stay in those relationships even though they know that they are just getting beat every single day, or every week, or every month, or even once a year. They still stay in those relationships as if something's gonna change, something's gonna happen, that other person is gonna finally like see the best in you and finally want to be able to help you and work with you and want to grow with you. That's just not the case. That's just not the way it works. It's like the second that we have to go straight to violence, the second that we just can't quite get out of it, we have to just keep going that route. This is the part with me that, I'm just challenging with working with these dogs. I've never gone to said, I don't like using his words, but it just makes it easy. Using that word of violence. I don't believe that most people are going to the level of violence with your dogs. Just putting the prong collar on, e-collar on, and just giving it a said correction and punishing it. That's not considered violence, but it just makes it easy for conversation. So you can know exactly what it is I'm saying. Because at the end of the day, if I were to stick a leash on your spouse and I were to yank it, that would be considered violence. If you would have done that to your own spouse, that would be considered violence. If you did that to your child, that would be violence. If you did any of these things that we do to these dogs to a human being, it in reality would be called violence, but for some reason we don't call it that with dogs. So I'll just stick with that script. But the biggest thing I'm gonna say is, once you start to go towards that level of violence, it's like you can't quite get out of it. You have to keep going and going and going and going and going. You have to just keep going further and further into it. You don't just go away. Because you know why? What's fascinating with these dogs, what is also like a big problem that they have, is once you use a level of communication to communicate to them, that's the level of communication that you need to continue to keep on using. So if you try to get the dog to, said, come to you, and they're using a form of pressure of some sort to force the dog to come to you, the only way that the dog knows how to communicate to you is through you applying that pressure. It doesn't know it in a, hey, good job. Dog's gonna look at you like, what the heck's going on here? It doesn't understand that. You haven't communicated that to it. If you're communicating to the dog how to get off the counter or how to do anything, and you're coming in with the level of pressure, the dog that's the communication that you're using. But if you come in with a different level of communication of, I don't know what word to use here other than just the pretty word that dog people like to use is redirect them. You know, he's on the counter, you just, tell him to get off and just throw a cookie in his face, and that'll be able to get the dog to not want to go on the counter. Which personally, me, I still just don't see stuff like that actually working. But that's the go-to method in reality. The dog's jumping on you. When it stops jumping, just shove the cookie in the dog's face, and the dog's gonna stop doing that. Now you just open up a new line of communication as well. And which one is better or worse? That's for you to, in reality, figure out what it is that you're willing and able to be to want to deal with. Because the biggest thing is, the part that I want more people to really kind of understand is, as soon as you start this level of communication, that's the way that we know how to communicate now. We can't just switch it up one day and decide this is what I want to do today. Because now it's going to be weird. Now it's going to be foreign. And that's the weird dilemma that goes on with us as humans. When we sit there and say, he hit me this week, and but the only reason that you're with that person, you will continue to stay with that person, is because that's the only communication that you understand. This is a huge problem with me personally growing up as a baby child. I thought that every woman has the right and needs to actually hit me because that's the only way that I was able to communicate. You want me to do something right? Physically hit me, physically harm me, hurt me to the point that I could barely walk. That'll get me to listen. That'll get me to change. That'll get me to do what it is that you need for me to do. That's the only line of communication that I personally knew. So when I grew up, all I was looking for were girls that were like willing and wanting to, and I don't know what it is, but this world is easy to find those. And I know a lot of y'all young ladies can say the same thing, and older ladies as well can say the same thing about guys. It's easy to find a guy to whoop on a woman. It's easy. They're out here. They're everywhere. And on the same side of that, it's easy to find girls out here that are just willing to just take baseball bats to their guys to try to get them to listen and do what it is that they want them to do. And that's a very interesting dilemma because we believe that and perceive that to be love. And there's no way that could be love. There's no way that we can adopt that as saying that they really care about me if they're having it hit and having it hurt and having it said abuse me and use violence towards me. But that's the main thing I'm going to say is where each of us needs to understand what our line of communication is, where we need to be able to adjust with this line of communication so that we can actually be able to have a better understanding of what our communication is and what we're looking for in our futures. This is something that is just fascinating to me because I've got multiple, this part with a lot of y'all's dog trainers out here. Any dog trainer still watching me, get 5 to 10 dogs. I'm trying to get 5 more dogs right now because your life is so different compared to just having 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. When you have more, it just does, and get all different breeds, all different ages, from all different backgrounds, from all different locations, all kinds of different stuff, because it does something to you. It makes you really understand that you are not working all of these animals the exact same way. You have to do different stuff because each of them has a different line of communication that they've been brought up with. Whereas for instance, this shepherd here, my Kahi here, he grew up with something, I don't even know what to say, but other than extreme, because he didn't want nobody touching him. He said, don't touch me. And if you be nice to me, I'll be nice to you, but get your hands off of me. And in a way, it's more likely he learned to be said kind of crazy about people touching him is because someone was more likely doing it inappropriately. And he doesn't, his line of communication is not like that. He doesn't work based on, because he's a weird shepherd from many of others that I've seen and even handled and worked with. Because I've seen this in my face personally. I've seen this from lots of dogs, actually, lots of shepherds, that you can put that prong collar on these dogs, because in reality, that's what that collar was intended for, that specific dog. You put that prong collar on that dog, and you tell that dog no, and you yank on that thing, that dog just stops, looks at you, says, yes, master, what you want? Like it like saves them. It like calms them. It like brings them a sense of security where they don't challenge no more. But this dog here, I've seen that from many of dogs. I've seen that. Now, I don't really go to dog training work like that no more. I just know of another way to be able to do what it is that I need. Because again, as soon as you go towards needing to use some sort of pressure like that, That's the communication that you have to continue to keep on using. You may get some grace period where the dog just doesn't and you don't need it as much, but you kind of always have to keep going back to that over and over and over again. And a lot of these shepherds, man, they're fine with it. They don't shut down. They don't get scared. They don't get nervous. They don't get sketchy. They don't get worse. They get better in like two minutes. I've seen this many times. But he was weird because he looked at me when I would put that collar on him and give him a little bit of yank with it. He looked at me like, you do that one more time and I'm going to bite your face off. Like he's the opposite of. And again, why people need to work with different dogs, different backgrounds, different places, get the dogs from who knows where. Stop buying these dogs from these breeders that are breeding out these well-mannered, nice genetics, nice sound, secure. Get dogs that are already genetically weird and messed up and just off the wall and just strange. It does a lot to teach you because he's like that. Whereas this Dalmatian, I don't need to do anything like that because I never even started that way. I never even really looked at her in a way of you better or else. I just would look at her straight up and say, you better, because this is just what we're doing. This is what's going on. And I don't have to go towards any sort of pressure to tell her what it is that I'm looking for. And since my communication is that way, I don't have to do anything, just straight up for me. I don't care to sit here and just have to keep yanking on my collar every 15 days all over and over and over and over and over and over and over to get my dogs to want to listen to me. Someone else, you don't care. So that's why what I talk about is you just keep doing what you're doing. You like to just straight up, you like to just beat your wife or beat your kids or you like to beat your husband and beat your kids just because it's in you. You don't want to change your line of communication. You just want to stay in that. You don't want to see that there is a different way, a different understanding, because a lot of times what we're doing is based on what it is that we grew up with. We grew up with something that we think that that's just it. And that's what a lot of us really need to understand. In most cases, we're not going to say, because this is the part where doctors, I kind of get I go back and forth with understanding. If you're in a so-called abusive relationship, it's because you put yourself there and you're desiring that. Where I'll agree with that. But I also say that there's just some stuff on this planet that we can't control at all. Stuff just happens. And we can't sit out here and say that everything that's bad that's going on in my life is because I set it up, I wanted it, I did it. That's just, that can't be 100% true. There's some people that state that that's 100%. That's just what it is. And but the biggest thing is, more than likely though, if you have someone in your life that's putting hands on you, it's because you believe that that's acceptable. Because for one, straight up, someone put hands on me today, I'm not even going to consider an option. Like, I'm dang near going to move states to get the heck out of here, because I'm going to let you know that that's never going to happen again, because if it's happened once, it's going to happen again. It's going to continue to keep happening again. And that's the thing with these dogs that is fascinating, because if you already believe that that's what's normal and that's the way to get things to work and respond, so of course, oh, there's a black squirrel. Of course, you're going to be quick to just do that and not have any cares of like what's going to happen, because that's your line of communication. But again, you more than likely didn't create that. It was brought to you. It was forced to you. You didn't have a choice. So you're just doing what you're doing based on not hearing or understanding a completely different way of going. That's why for me, it's, again, really hard to not put hands on or do anything to these dogs to get them to listen to me, because that's all that I knew. That's all that I knew. All that I had any sort of understanding with. And at the end of the day, straight up, there's just no way. There's just no way. That is not love at all. At all. That is control. That is just, I don't even know what word to use more than just using that word control. That is something that is very, very dangerous in reality. And it's only there to just break somebody down, to beat somebody down, to just absolutely destroy them to the point that they're just absolutely nobody. And that's why for me, when I'm sitting here contemplating these ideas of having to use physical force to get something to listen to you, it's clearly not love. If your dog is literally using physical force to try to get you to do something or take something from you, the dog clearly doesn't love you. And we are sitting here like, this is the part with me that this is why it's hard for me to talk this dog stuff, because I don't know how not to be honest. Just when I see things aren't working, I see things aren't going the way I want it, I'm just gonna say this is just what it is. I can't just sit here and put this fake smile on and act like, oh, everything's good. You know, my dogs are just so perfect and they're just so amazing. And dang, girl, you about to make me fall. Oh, we're going this way, guys. Kai, I don't even know what's that way. I don't even know if that's a trail or not. Hold on, girl. You can get off now. Come here, wait. Wait, oh, sorry, hold on a second. Let me get this dog off this leash. Okay, get going. Okay, now you got the leash stuck on you. All right, get going. Sorry, just gotta figure things out real quick. I'm not just gonna sit here and say, oh, my dogs are so perfect, like majority of just all folks are always doing. It's just saying like how everything is so great and your method with your dog is just so perfect all the time. It's just, that's not reality. The reality is we're struggling with some things. The reality is everything is just like you're second guessing some stuff sometimes. That's what the true reality is. And for me, I just like to live in what I'm gonna say is reality, and just have to say to myself, of if the dog is doing something that I clearly don't want it to do, I say I put boundaries on. Say this, I don't accept this. So like both of these two, or Kaki, I don't care, but Dalmatian, she's not allowed to jump on me unless I ask her to. I mean, both of these two in reality, I don't care. I don't care if they do. You just have to be invited to be able to do it. So I put that boundary in and said no. If the dog just keeps doing it, that's showing that the dog clearly just it doesn't. If it doesn't respect your boundary, it clearly doesn't love you. It clearly doesn't. If your dog is chewing on you and you don't want it to chew on you, and you're sitting here holding it and petting it and say, oh, my dog really loves me, he's just the best, he's the greatest, but he's doing that, your dog clearly doesn't love you. Your dog clearly is showing that it doesn't really give a crap at all about you, at all. Because again, if someone was beating you once a year, is that any better or worse than if he was doing it once a week? No, it's the same. So it doesn't matter if they've done it even one time. That one time is enough in reality. That one time is that one time that you can say, this could easily happen again. You've already done it this one time. So if that's already going down, then there's already a level of suspicion that's going to have to happen for the remainder of that relationship, because that's how we've built our relationship off of knowing, I don't like that you did this, so now I'm going to physically hit you. Now I'm going to physically harm you in some sort of way to force you to want to have to listen to me and not really give you a choice. And then if you don't listen, I'm just going to keep going harder and harder and harder with that force. That is not love in any sort of way. That is, at the end of the day, straight up, the opposite of what it is. That's hate. That's hate. That's annoyance. That's like disgust. That's what all that is. That is not caring for. That is not appreciation. That is not respect. That is not anything. But for some reason, we applaud that today. And we use those methods today as if it's like a good thing to be able to do. And we're just constantly doing that over and over in the sense that it's what's normal. It's normal. You know, we just keep hitting, keep hurting, keep doing all this, and everything's going to be all right in the end. So that's why for me, it's hard for me to change, I guess I can say, into knowing that love isn't about being physically hit, because that's all I knew. That's all I knew. That's the only way that I understood life. I understood life through, if I'm not getting hit, you must not care about me. But I had to realize that that's not healthy in any way. That's not the right way of living in any way. That is actually a very, very false reality of someone else trying to express control over me to try to make me think that that is what is real. And that is where things start to get really, really confusing. And I'm not trying to say that, because again, I talk about these dogs, and I think a lot of y'all get a little, you think I'm talking about dogs, and I'm not talking about dogs. I don't know how to say that other than just saying that. The dogs just show me what we as humans are doing, because the dogs are just being us. They're acting so much like human beings, but they're not. They're showing us what's actually going on, as opposed to what we say is going on. That's the part, again, why I say, if your dog is chewing on you, your dog clearly doesn't love you, because it wouldn't do that if it did. And that's something that for some reason we always ignore, because my dog is so perfect, but this or but that, he does this all the time, but he's doing that all the time, but he's constantly, I don't even know, worst case scenario, killing neighbors' dogs all the time. You're going through these buts, and that's what is really, really dangerous at the end of the day. Because you're not really seeing the reality of what's going on. Because for me, again, these two dogs here, I don't go to the route of applying pressure in reality to get them to listen to me. Whereas my dog Johnny, since day one that I met him and got him, that's all that we did. That's all that he knows me. So today, when I come at him with, hey man, just leave me alone, just leave me be. We're going this way, guys. We've never been this way before. Kahi, Ofi. Hi. We've never been this way before. But when he's all he knows is that pressure. All he knows is I got to use that leash to get him. So when I'm sitting here, trying to get him to say like, come on, man, let's just move, let's just do, and there's no what else coming. It's just let's just do this. It's so hard for him to adjust, to come back to me and say, hey, you know, I understand what you're saying, because that's not our line of communication. Our line of communication is, buddy, if you don't move, I'm about to grab this leash and it's going around your neck, and you're not going to get a choice but to move. And he's like, okay, I'll move now. And that's all that he knows. He doesn't know anything else. So, or at least with me, and I don't know what he knew before me. So with me, in reality, that's how I worked that dog for just about 3 years that I've had him. And I don't know how old the dude is, but that's all that he knows for me. And with other people, that's all he knows from other folks. Because he'll walk perfectly. You put a prong collar on the dog, I don't care who has the leash in your hand, he's like perfect with everyone across the board. The problems start to happen is when you take that off. You put a flat collar on him, now you start to see the said true dog show of who he actually is and what he actually represents. He's going, and that's the part where I still yet to have anyone else be able to hold that leash other than me today. But still me, he will try to challenge me a little bit of always kind of looking at me and saying, hey, can I go? And I'm like, no, man, not right now. And it's taken patience galore of trying to change this up. But again, that's me and him looking at him of saying, I clearly haven't shown you that I care about you, that I show you anything. Because again, someone's going to say, I'm not talking about dogs. I'm talking about us as humans to human. That it just doesn't work that I come in with a whole lot of force to try to force somebody to do something and thinking that I'm actually showing them any sort of love. That's not what it is at all in any sort of way. And that's what I don't know why, but we as a people are starting to think that this is the problem that I have with. I get it. How the older generation is, we need to go back to whooping these kids because these kids are acting a fool and acting crazy nowadays. But in reality, the over disciplining using physical force to the kids is why the kids are today. And that may be confusing because someone says, oh, they don't spank these kids anymore nowadays, so that's why they're acting the way that they're acting. But the biggest problem is you don't know how to communicate to that child if you were raised as a child that was getting hit every day. You do not know, your line of communication is lost because you haven't learned how to communicate a different way. So when you're trying to, I'm not going to spank my child to get them to listen, you're at a complete, ooh, we got a left and a right. Let's go left. Hopefully. You're going to be at a complete loss knowing how to communicate. So when these kids are out here acting a fool, you don't know how to communicate to them because all you know is physical force. So once you don't use physical force, you didn't communicate to that child what not to do. In reality, you just told the child to do it because you didn't do any line of communication. To get someone to stop doing something doesn't come down to having to put hands on or do anything like that. There can be a way of actually just talking it through. Something that a lot of us I don't know why, we don't understand how to talk things through anymore. It's all about, it's just my way and you better shut up and that is what it is. That's not talking things through. Opening up a line of communication. Because again, talking things through can come down to just hitting the game, hitting the person, hitting the whatever and saying, okay, it's finished, it's figured out. But in reality, no, nothing is finished and figured out because you didn't have a line of communication of what's actually going on. I believe that's why something as simple as these dogs, people are struggling with because you do not know how to communicate to them. A lot of us are thinking that I could just come in and just apply some pressure to the dog and make it listen to me. Now, your only line of communication is every single time the dog is doing something that you don't like is to, is someone up ahead? Is to have to use, said like, man, I don't have the right shoes on for this walk, guys. Whatever, we winging it. Is to use that physical force. So if the dog is jumping on you, you got to use some sort of physical force to get them to stop doing it. Your dog is trying to eat your food. You got to use some sort of physical force. Your dog is too far away and you try to get them to come back. You got to use some sort of physical force because that's your line of communication that you have opened with that animal, as opposed to coming up with a whole new different level of communication. And that level of communication for me, It's easy to me today because I just understand dog. But with humans, it gets a little more, it's much more complicated because at the end of the day, this is why I like dogs. They don't lie and they tell me what they want. They don't be like, I really like, let's do something simple. I don't know why I thought of this, but I really like dancing, but I don't want to tell them that I do to try to like, I don't know, not make myself look away or be away or something. Where the dog is like, I like to run. It doesn't say that in a way of like, it just says it. It doesn't lie. It just says that's what I want. So it's easy to work with the dog because I can find out what the dog wants and then I can open my line of communication up with that work or that play or whatever that dog actually desires. So it makes life really, really simple. Well, y'all looking crazy. Y'all looking like something's up ahead. We good? I don't know where we are right now. We're gonna figure it out. Wait. Kahi. I've been exploring all kinds of new places now. It's wintertime, so I can walk in a little more sketchy areas. But it's always fun to be able to go to new places. Because you go new places, that's the number one thing I'll say, especially, man, my goodness, working with some dang dogs. I mean, just not even dogs, but people as well, is the more places you go, the more stuff you keep checking out, the better and better things get. Because I go to a brand new place in a brand new area, and the dogs just get this new added extra excitement. And you just work them through that. Things just, you get a very good universal everywhere, everything, good dog. But that's relationships in general. The best relationships on our planet are the relationships where the people do stuff together. You get up and make something happen. You're doing your date nights, you're doing your work together, you're doing stuff, you're making things happen, you're planning stuff together, you're putting the plans together, you're constantly doing stuff. And that's, again, the same with the dog. The more you do stuff with that dog, the better the dog is at the end of the day. You just have to do stuff. Not obedience drills, but just go places and just do stuff. Just have it sit with you, have it hang out with you. And just be together and just do stuff. And I can prove that at the end of the day in reality with, look around at any of the best relationships of anything that you see of any of your friends, any of your family. They do stuff together. They're always together making something happen. They communicate to each other. They talk to each other. They got boundaries in place with each other. I never knew all this was back here. They do a lot together. Every single person I know with a really nice dog, they do a lot with the dog. They're out in places. They're just doing stuff. And that's how we end up getting nice things, because we can do stuff because we start to open up that line of communication with each other. And that line of communication is what is the key to success. Because if you're coming in with a line of communication that is about suppressing and trying to control, it's going to be hard to speak anything. It's going to be hard to keep that going long term. Short term, yeah, you're going to get some real fast, pretty results. But long term, you're going to be struggling. You're going to be struggling so much. And you're going to be struggling so much that at the end of the day, you're going to believe that that's all that's there. That's the only option. That's the only, what the heck is that? It's the only way to be able to do it. And then you're going to believe that when that's the only way to do it, that you can't get another way. You can't do another way. Another way isn't going to even be an option. And there's definitely other options for sure, because I see that all the time with working with all of the stuff that I'm constantly working with and talking to the people that I'm constantly keep on talking to and trying to introduce and put myself in places that in reality I don't belong, just to see what's going to happen, to know how to actually effectively communicate. Because as soon as you go towards like the whole, I don't know what it is today, folks are just quick to like name calling and all the rest of this stuff. As soon as you go to that you just lost the line of communication. There's no communication going on. And that's what's like normalized today, just yelling and slandering and gossiping and just going absolutely crazy with all this stuff and not actually like listening, hearing, and saying something back of any sort of substantial value. You're just quick to just go straight to some sort of anger. And when you're doing that, you're not going to get anywhere. That relationship, that conversation, that everything is done. It's over with. And then you got to come back at it again the next time with basically that same type stuff to just shut it down. It's just fascinating to me on how simple things that I just pay attention to how we as humans do. Like I could watch it in dog training terms and ways and see like that's the same stuff that we do to humans. And then we wonder why we're struggling with these dogs today. We're not struggling with these dogs. We're struggling with human to human relationships today. The dogs are just a reflection of how much we are struggling as a people to be able to get along with each other. If your dog is trying to eat everyone's face off, oh my goodness, just take a hard look at yourself. how much you want to, don't take it the wrong way, how much you want to eat someone else's face off, how you just are out there slandering, how much you are gossiping, how much you are just quick to anger, how much you are just all of this stuff. The dogs are just a reflection of us and what it is that we've got going on. And that's the part that is just fascinating for me to just sit out and watch. Just, it's fascinating. That's why for me, straight up, people always talk these reactive dogs. I do not have, or be around reactive dogs. Reactive dogs, when they even see me, they don't react to me and my dogs. They just look at me. They're like, oh, hey, hi. They may have that extra, I can hear with they're getting a little excited, but they just don't have a flip out. Why? Because I don't come at the world that way. I don't come at the world in a way of how do I take from you so I can get. I don't come at the world in a way of trying to destroy anything. I come at the world of saying, hey, we good. I'm good. Everything's fine here. There's nothing to fight about. There's nothing to battle about. I don't hate anybody. I'm not mad at anybody. That's how I come at the world. And I don't see it. I could take anyone's dog right now that's so-called reactive, and I will show you in not even a few days of how that dog is no longer reactive with me. With me, not even a few days, a lot of these dogs, my goodness, 15 minutes with me. The dog stops it because I'm saying to that dog, we don't need to do that. That's not a life that we live. I live a completely different life than that. And let's come on and go over here, because the life that I'm living is, in my opinion, I don't know it all, but much more calm, much more relaxed, much more chill. I'm not anxious and worried and nervous about a lot. I'm just walking and being. And I got a little nervous back there. I don't got the right shoes on right now. I don't like stepping in the wrong stuff. But that's the only type of nervousness that I'm getting out doing what I'm doing on my day-to-day, basically. It's not a nervousness of someone's trying to attack me, someone trying to hurt me. I need to get back at somebody because they did me wrong. I just don't care. I just move forward in life and just forgave and everything and anybody that even wants to still continue to try to do something to me in the future. That's just how I live life. And the dogs just respond and come to that, because that's the line of communication that I bring, not anger and frustration and jealousy and rage and all this stuff. I come with, man, I don't know where I am right now. Hopefully this circles back. If y'all don't get this video uploaded, I definitely got lost out here. I don't look at the world, so that's why to me when the so-called reactive dog just doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't make sense to me. It's so confusing to me, because every time that I get to handle that dog, it's done. It's over with. It's finished. And man, if I get to be able to use my dogs to be able to walk with that dog, it's done and it's done. The dogs just stop. They just quit and they look satisfied, and then we move forward. That's why, again, it's got nothing to do with, sorry, that was a hill. I got a big race this weekend that's supposed to have a lot of hills in it. I'm gonna be struggling. It's got nothing to do with the next training technique. Now, how do I get my dog to stop being reactive? It's your level of communication that you build, that you give to the world. That's how you stop it. How do you want to communicate? How you want people to communicate to you? How you want these animals to communicate? How you want to communicate to them? That's what's going to give you what you're looking for. Not worrying about training. If you could simply just communicate to the dog, you're going to have a beautiful life. Because I could say, hey, I don't want that. I could look at Kahi and say, hey, Kahi. Oh, where is he? Kahi, I don't want that. And he's just going to stand there. He's going to look at me. He got a sniff on. And then we could just easily be able to talk. We could easily be able to say some stuff. There's nothing crazy going on. So he could walk away and I could say, hey, Kahi, come here. That's it. This doesn't come down to training. This comes down to he understands what I'm saying. He said, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. That's all. And then he knows. He ain't got to stay with me. He could just run off and go do what he wants to do again instantly. That's not training. That's because he understands what words I'm saying to him. Even to this point today, that's what I'm working on the Dalmatian at this moment. I want her to understand my words, not just my body motions. So that's how I get them to be able to function with me, because they can hear me, as opposed to it being a sense of like, how that shepherd was for a little while with his e-collar. He knew if he didn't move instantly, he was going to get a buzz on that collar real quick. And that's the only way that we communicated. So when I took that thing off, he looked at me like, I don't know what you want, because I didn't take it as a level of disrespect. That's hard for a lot of folks, I know. You take it as, oh, my dog didn't come back to me right away. He's disrespect. No, his dog doesn't know what you want. If the dog knows what you're looking for, life is so easy. That's where I'm struggling right now with my Dalmatian. So like right now, Ophi. So if I call her and I call her here and I'm still walking towards her, she has no idea what I want. But if I stop, Ophi, come here, come here. And I stop and then I take a few steps back. This is the communication that she knows. She understands this. At first, she's not sitting there like, oh, I don't know. She doesn't know. She has no idea what it is that I'm looking for from her. But then when I change and give her the language that she understands right now is pay attention to my body. If my body's moving in such a way, she's like, oh, okay, that's what you want. And then we're doing what we're doing. Everything is pretty much just good to go. It's fascinating of understanding a different way to communicate compared to what we know. Most people, what we know is not what's considered love. And we do what we do because it's what we, in reality, grew up with. Man, especially a lot of us that were born in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, for sure. We were brought up with the mindset of, you better or else. Don't question authority. Don't talk back. Shut up because I'm speaking right now. Who are you to even have input? Like, we were speaking to in such ruthless ways. That's not love. We were just quick to get hit. We were quick to get spanked for pretty much anything that was going on. That's just not everyone, of course, but the majority of everyone. That's how we were raised. That's what we thought was acceptable and the way to go. And we can see today of how, in reality, my goodness, y'all look up the statistics on mental health problems and all these issues, and look up the age groups of who's struggling the most right now. Everyone born in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s even. Like, it's insane how much those pharmaceuticals are going up because of how we were so-called raised said the right way. And in reality, just coming down to physical touching and beating and hitting, that's not love. And a lot of folks, man, someone watching this video right now, right this second, you're in a relationship right now with another human being that is just putting hands on you. And I'm gonna tell you here right now, it's never gonna stop. It's gonna keep just going and going and going because that's the only level of communication that you're willing to want to accept right now. Until you decide I need a different way, you're gonna still just stay in it and you're gonna keep finding that next person that's gonna keep doing it to you over and over and over again. You're stuck in it because that's all that you think that how to be able to talking is. That's why you can't leave. Everyone's got all these theories and all this stuff of it's a, and I'm lost right now. All these theories, I don't know how I'm gonna get back, of how to, why we stay in these abusive relationships and stuff like this. And I read all these books. I'm going through all this research to try to figure all this stuff out. And there's always one thing that everyone's always not really talking about is communication. You need to be hit to be able to listen. And you go, oh, no, that's not true. Just listen to that for a second. You need it. If you do not get hit, you will not know what to do. You will feel lost. That's why most people, I would use a word of so-called survivors of getting out of abusive relationships, you go downhill because you're not getting that like communication that you need to be able to survive. You go way downhill. That's why you end up going right back to the same person over and over and over again because you need it. It's the only way you know how to talk on this planet is through getting hit and hitting. Worst case scenario, you're hitting as well as getting hit. But most folks are just getting hit. And you need that. That's all that you know. And if someone doesn't do that, you're gonna sit straight up, look at that person and say, oh, you don't love me. You don't love me. And you'll leave that person that should be with you, that has no desire to ever put hands on you, but you cannot be with them at all because they're not giving you the communication that you understand. I just watched this with these dogs and it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see how we as humans are. And again, dog training represents us as humans. Dog training represents, oh my goodness, any recommendations I give, I need to give my book recommendation in reality so folks can read some cool books, is business. Because most people work. So look at the playground, the script that these employers use to keep employees. What do they do? How do they do it? What type of benefits they give you in which ways? These books that these big time CEOs are writing to help each other out basically on how to be able to keep employees. And you'll read this stuff and you'll be like, what the heck's going on right now? And it'll throw you through a loop in reality if you really want to pay attention, because it's talking about some stuff that just it gets dark and scary in reality at the end of the day. But that's how these bigger companies, how they can keep retention, how they can keep people hooked, how they can keep people to stay without questioning the authority, how they can do all this stuff. It's fascinating. It's super fascinating. And in reality, it's all the same dog training methods. Dog training methods being used on human beings. That's exactly what's going on. It didn't start that way. It started with humans first, and then, well, basically they were testing the dogs to figure out us. And then they started doing that on us. And then now that since they realized it works on us, hey, we might as well just use it on dogs as well now. So now we do all the same stuff to the dogs at this point today. And that's why I believe that most folks today are struggling with the dog, because they're going off of a script that's stating the only way to be with these dogs is to have to physically touch them in some way, as opposed to learning about how can I open up a line of communication? That's like the direction that I want to go. I want to talk about dogs. I'm going to talk to folks about how to be able to open up a line of communication. How do I effectively be able to speak to my dog so that my dog knows what it is that I'm looking for? How to even be able to start that process, because that process is going to be extremely foreign for a lot of people at first, because you're used to just doing basically what dog training represents. Give the dog a cookie and that'll make it listen to you. That's not communication at all. You don't want to have to add anything other than just you. You want to be the show, the all that's there. That's it. And once you have that, it's fascinating to work with these dogs. Thank you. Hey, guys, we might have to pull the map out on this one. I've taken too many turns at this point. I don't know where I'm at. It's just, it's nice out here, folks. You can get lost out here, have a good time out here. You could just explore and be able to just do something. You got to do it every day. Don't even have to do it every week. You just got to do it when you can do it. And you'll see things get much, much better in your life. Just one thing about dogs is they are active. They are active. That's why me and dogs, in my opinion, I work good with them, because I am active. I am like, let's get up and go do something. I'm always walking around. I log like 25 to 35 steps a day. I don't know how to do anything less than that. And if I don't, I can already see it in me. I got this like little, basically like depression that starts to kick in. And that's what I see in dogs personally, depression that kicks in, because they're not doing what they are intended to do, is active. These dogs move, and these dogs have purpose. These dogs have a design behind them of who they are and what they are. Each breed has a purpose. And when you find that purpose and you work with that dog in its purpose, you're gonna see things just be absolutely amazing. You're gonna have so much fun with them, as opposed to just being aggravating. There's days and times that I'm just like, what the heck's going on? Heck yeah, everything's not perfect, but it's a matter of being out here and just doing stuff over and over and over again.